Looks good.
Are you ready for metal?
Yes, sir. Just tell me when. I'm good on my end.
I say let's go.
Going live.
Are we good? Are we live? Are we live? Hello, everybody. I'm looking at the comments down. If you see me looking down here, I'll turn the volume down so it doesn't go ping every time. Oh yeah, YouTube just sent out Warren, Produce Like a Pro is live now, so I suppose we must be. Hey M Mixing, hey Anita, hey Mark, hey Andy, otherwise known as Country Tea, Omar, Ben, Tim, Sir Egbert Fartalot. We have to say that. Just have to say it, full name. That's Egbert, and last name is Fartalot. It's French, yes. Keith, Bjorn, George, or I don't want to mess up people's name. I'm going to, aren't I? Clint, Cohen, Magnus, Martin, Alexi. So many wonderful people. Dustin. Another Tim. More Tims. Hello, Michael. How are you? Mr. Michael. Michael from In the Mix. We're about to go into a very long and arduous, mix judging competition. I'm sure Michael is not sleeping much. And David, of course, is helping out, the artist. Hello, Not Hardly, otherwise known as Jay. Demetrius, Daniel, Gary, Mark, November Bees, Stephen, Delvin, Jasper, so many wonderful people. Justin, Patrick, I could do this. We could actually do this for the next 300 people. Hope you're all doing marvelous well. Of course, please hit the like button and share and all kinds of wonderful stuff. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to take this song. We're going to reach over here, have it come through the speakers a little bit. I've also got headphones in case you want proper isolation.
Gonna take a long way home to see what I've become. Gonna take a long way home before it's over. This county lines ain't limits. You can just forget it. Gonna take a long way home tonight.
All right, so that's slamming a pair of channels down the console at the moment. You could probably hear it starting to crunch out a little bit. Okay, so what's different? That was sort of like we did a balance of the drums. So let's just come out of suspended groups for a second and just solo where we left off. So this is all of the drums. This is where we left it off the other day. Great. So what are we going to do? We're going to do some hybrid mixing. Now, I did a little bit of this inside of the Academy the other day. So we're going to pick up the cable's not long enough, but my cell phone over here, and I am going to be able to walk over to the console and show you some of the console settings that we do as well. So you're also going to watch me do the process. So at the moment, everything's coming out a pair of faders. So why don't we get in there and just separate stuff through the console and see what it's doing. So let us start with the kick, which is up here. So here's the three elements to the kick. As Sean is saying, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell thingy. Just to clarify, what that is like if you hit the bell, that's when you get notified that there's a new video. Okay, so I have three elements of the kick. There's the D112, then there is the FET 47, and then there is a Coles. So again, we'll have a quick listen. Here's the D112. Let's add in the FET. And last but no means least, quieter is the Coles. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and what I'll do is I'll put on the headphones as well to make Eric's life a little easier. So when I go over there, we can play it, and I'll be listening on the headphones, and I'll be able to talk at the same time. So what do we do first? Well, first of all, I'm going to output all of those to output 1 only. So this is going to come up on channel 1 on the console. So let's put on the headphones. Now, as you can probably hear, it's annihilating the bus. Can you hear that distortion that's coming in? So I'm going to create a master fader. So here is the mono master fader. And yes, you guessed it, it's going to be channel 1. But you heard an enormous amount of low end that came out of nowhere. Like, what happened? Well, that's because we were going through the console, and you're going to see some of the fun things that happen. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little group just called, you guessed it, kick. I'm going to bring them down as a whole because I found the balance before. You notice I found the balance of the elements that I wanted. Cool. That's already sounding significantly better. One of the things you're probably noticing is a huge amount of low-end improvement. So let's fire up our second device over here. Hello, everybody. Can you see me seeing you? It says it's on monitor. Can you get it onto... There it is. Hello. Watching me, watching you. Okay, so let us go over. Now I'm going to start the track up. And we're going to have a little look at what's going on. So firstly, let's take out all the schnoozing. So first thing I want to check is, I've got an occasional peak here, you see on the overload. So I'm going to pull it down a little bit. I don't want to like drive it quite so hard. So I'm going to pull this down. There was like one, there you go. So this is how I feel about an SSL. An occasional little peak is not going to kill me. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is insert the EQ and see what we've got going on. Now there's some pretty drastic EQ work going on here. There's a huge amount of boost going on at 60. Let's see how that affects us. There is cut at about 350 here. Fairly narrow. And then we've got some boost at about 2.5 and a lot of boost at about 8K. So let's go in and out. EQ in. EQ out. Huge difference. EQ in. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to go and put the compression in. So this at the moment is on channel in, which means it's compressing before it gets to EQ. If I do this, let's go back. I should have looped it, but hey, you live and you learn. Sorry, I'm all tangled here. I got tangled up. Okay, so now with the channel out, it's compressing after EQ. This is a big deal and a big part of an SSL sound. So I'm boosting the EQ pretty aggressively, but then squashing it back. Have a listen to the difference in sound. This is EQ into compression. Compression first. EQ into compression. Now, another big thing that another big part of what I like to do is insert here. So what have I got going on? You see here, I've got some 60 boost, 63 if you want to be pedantic. here, 63, got some 250 cut, a little 125 cut as well, because that's where I get some build up with the bass guitar. 500 flat, everything's pretty flat actually, so all the high mids are being boosted on the console. But I got the 63 boost there, 125 cut and 250, a bit more aggressively. So let's insert that here on the insert and have a listen. What I'll do is I'll turn it on and off here so you can hear the difference. It's definitely more focused, and you hear a little bit more of the high mids and a little bit more of the low end. Okay, so let's go back over here and we'll output. So let's go back to this view over here and we're going to output the snare. That isn't fully everything on the kit yet. I'm going to show you a little bit more in a second. So, but you see it was a huge difference between what we had before. Now I'm going to take all of the snare elements. So the snare is a 57 top. Quite a ring to it, and there's a 57 bottom. Sean said, "Do you ever have bad days mixing?" Of course, everybody does. It's quite all right.
Warren,
yes?
just Lisa has a question asking.
Yes, Lisa?
How are you outputting to the console?
I am, if the guys will turn this back on, using a combination of different, so if I press play here, you see the second light that's going on that top one, so that's how we're coming in. Okie dokie. So yeah, so it's basically coming out of the IOs, the interfaces, into the console. Hence I've got 40 channel console and I've got 48 outputs. Okay, hey Ontario audio recording technology. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm now creating a snare bus. So I'm just going to call it a snare group there. And now I'm going to do the same thing, but we're going to come out channel 2. So here's channel 2. The first thing we're probably going to find is just absolutely slamming. So let's bring it down. Bring it down, go into the console. And of course we can do this. We can name these. So Kickmaster. Snare Master. So I already like what it's doing. So let's go and check out what it is doing. So over we go, and let's press play. Now there's quite a few things that you're probably going to see. It's hitting the console probably a little harder, however, that's because all of the EQ and compression is. I'm soloing the snare top on its own here. So EQ-wise, what have we got going on? We've got some 100 Hertz boost here. I actually did a little bit more boost at about 220, 250 here. And I've got some 5K boost and a doubled up like 6K boost on the top there. So I'm boosting a lot of high mids, but not super, super highs. I'm also high passing at about 80 and low passing at probably about 14K. Because I don't need any super, super highs in there. But I think a big part of this sound, if I take it out, is how I'm smashing my API. So if you look here, it's a big part of it. So I'm actually high passing here at 31, keeping it at 63 flat, but then boosting 125 and 250. 500 is flat, 1K is flat, 2K is boosted, and 8K is boosted. The 2K is giving me a little bit of that crackiness, and the 8K is giving me a little bit of the bottom snare, kind of the sizzle. So that's kind of a big part of it. But we are throwing big guns at this. So the big guns are put the compression back in. The big guns are, for the kick, a sub here, and this sub. And I was just talking to Chris Sheldon about this, so this is a big deal. Now, whether you've got the ability to get this on hardware or you do a software version, is a DBX 120A. That's hitting it quite hard. I think we could come back a little bit. And the send is here on the console, so we could come back a little bit. So that's now giving us the occasional red light. And what am I doing? I'm creating a lot of low end from that. This is coming back, the subharmonic synthesizer, on this channel here. And what I can do is I can float on the console, which means I go into kick, solo here, solo the sub as well. Hopefully this is not making you dizzy watching me go backwards and forwards on a console. And then if I hit float, you can hear just the sub. Very, very low. Hopefully your headphones will reproduce it. But see the meters there? Put the kick, unfloat it. So it's super, super low subbiness going on down there. Snare back in. The next part of magic for the snare is this. So what I'm doing is I'm boosting 100 Hertz on a Pultec, and I'm boosting 8K. So a bit of boom and fizz on the snare. So big part of the drum sound. Cool. Let's go back over to the Pro Tools. Great. So you can see there, that's a huge part of the sound. There's a lot of EQ. What I learned is I remember I work a lot in Sunset Sound, and I remember being in Sunset Sound. And this is just one of many stories, but I'm being in Sunset Sound and marveling at the amount of aggressive EQ that Joe Ciccarelli was using. And it was pretty crazy. I mean, what he does is makes great records, and I can do it on the chair if you like, if you want me to zip around on the chair. Yeah, the ability to take the fundamental signals, the low end that we want from the kick, the tubbiness that we want from the snare at about 100, the sizzle that we want on the high mids, and just boot on the snare and then boosting them, and then taking the sub and getting that. So what we're doing is we're enhancing what we like about the instrument. Okie dokie. All right, let's move on. So next up, hello David Jackson in Philly. Just saw that. Okay, so next on we've got the hats. Now what I do here is I take the hats and the overheads and I put them out of one output. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my overhead mics. And we've got a Royer there, so we'll include that as well. Remember, these have already been panned from what we did last time. So I'll take our 3 overhead mics. I'm actually going to move them up in my session and just put them next to my hi-hats. And I'm going to bus all of those elements together. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them, we'll call them cymbals. How about that? So that sort of encompasses, you know, hats as well, because it is, after all, a cymbal. And all of those are going to come out 5 and 6 on the console. And again, we're going to create a stereo master fader. Now you can do it as an auxiliary, or you can do it as a master fader. We're just going to go master. Now obviously 1 and 2 have already been used, so we're going to come up and use this. So the hat's fairly loud in that, which is okay, but I'm going to bring the hat down a little bit, and I'm going to bring our cymbals up. So the ride is going to come up, the overheads are going to come up. As you can see, the right hand overhead is a little hot. That's a better stereo image. Yes, this is a real drummer. This was recording at Blackbird. So what this is Blackbird. This is Blackbird Masterclass that we do with the Academy. And the Blackbird Masterclass it's really wonderful. So what we do is we bring in a bunch of Academy members. And, you know, I'm sorry if it annoyed you, Jonah, that we wrote home recording. You know, what we hear is like we do tons and tons of videos. And we do videos, like we just did one, it was really exciting. We just did one with Laura Paderatz using the Spire. So you sing live into this little device. I don't think you could get more home recording than that. And then also we did one just yesterday, which is coming out, I believe, tomorrow on the Blue Ember, which is a $99 microphone. we try to connect people together here, from people that are just beginning out, that can only afford $100 for a microphone, or could only have like a Spire, all the way through to doing a hybrid video. If it annoys you that we use the hashtag home recorded, I'm really sorry, but there's lots of other channels that you can go to that won't annoy you. The drummer is Paul Simmons, who's not related to Gene Simmons. He made a point of saying that. So a wonderful, wonderful drummer, a really, really great guy. And what he did is he took all of the students and he showed them how to use, basically how to tune the drums. We had, you know, we talked about the room, we talked about all the miking. It was a really wonderful experience for so many people to, like, you know, allow them to sort of see what it's like to record in a real studio. We also, on the home recording respect, also did like 4 or 5 mic drum kit using Shure microphones, an inexpensive thing, recording through a laptop and an inexpensive I/O. So we cover all of the things. We cover recording drums with cheap microphones, expensive microphones, and we did 2 drum kits. We did one in a big room and then one off in a little small room, so you could learn how to do this at home. We're very comprehensive. We really, really care about people learning, you know, teaching people all of the different ways. This is just one of the facets of what we do. His playing is really balanced. It's one of the most important things for any kind of any drum recording, is to get a drummer to play well. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for us to be able to show all of those different elements. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to listen to the overheads, and I'm going to show you the kind of EQ and compression that we're doing on that. So I'm just going to move over here. Give me a second. Let's go into, let's play it back here. I'm soloing the overheads here. One of my light bulbs is out here. So nothing on the low end as far as boost, but I am high passing here. So we're high passing at 120. It's quite heavily compressed on the way in. It's giving us quite a nice wash. I'm doing some, this is probably a big part of it, low mid cuts at about 350, tugging out quite a lot. Then boosting at 5K, and then boosting just a little bit about 10. Now what that's doing is that's like giving us some shimmer, and then allowing us, but also pulling out the low mids which are in the way. So pulling out the low mids so we can allow the shimmer to sort of take over. And I don't mind the compression. Now, why is that? Because I like the excitement. Now, it might be that you don't want to compress your overheads, but I didn't compress really going on the way in. It was really, really, really subtle what we were doing. Come out of the solo here on the overheads. So it's a pretty natural drum sound. I mean, all we're doing is applying EQ compression. Everything that you could do that I'm showing you on the console, we have the ability of using the console, but you could do using plugins. And you know, you could use either the Waves ones or the Brainworks ones. Both work really well. Sean's saying, Eric, Warren's mug is empty. He needs some more PG tips.
Does he want more PG?
I would like some PG tips. It would be quite remarkable. Look, everybody, there was Eric. The chair's falling apart, by the way. I think there's a washer down there that fell off as well. Hopefully the chair won't collapse with me in it, because we didn't adjust it properly. We'll adjust it later. Thanks ever so much, Tim. I'm glad you get what we're doing here. was Alexi's question? Because Lisa's saying, good question. It says, Warren, can you please tell what the difference between using master controls for drums and auxiliary drums for you? Well, the thing is about the master is it's the last thing in the chain. It's just as simple as that. So I don't have to use a master. We could use an auxiliary and just output it there. But bear in mind, the master is the end of the chain. So it means if I wanted to, I could insert auxiliaries before it. And as many as I want, I could have an auxiliary going to another auxiliary going to another auxiliary. But then the master is the overall last resort control, controlling the output from my interface going into the console in a hybrid fashion. Great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to do some work. We'll go on to the toms. So I'm going to move the toms up. They've already been grouped together. Let's just move them up underneath here. So, oh yeah, the master here. Let's make sure we call this cymbals, so we know what we've got. And let's create a tom group. Now, our toms are coming out 3 and 4. So they're already panned how I want to hear them. So let's just create a stereo master. And again, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a stereo master. We could use this, we could make this, if we wanted, we could make this a auxiliary and have it output through the channels. The master is just the last thing in the chain. That's all it is. Okay, so great. So I'm going to create a stereo master fader. And you know what, we'll name that straight away. Toms. And let's have a listen at a section with toms. Oh, we have to assign this. Bring up that low tom just a little bit. At the moment there's a ton of bleed, but it isn't really bothering me. I'm just going to look over my shoulder to the console. Pretty much it's doing what I want it to do. Now sometimes I'll gate the toms more aggressively. Sometimes I'll draw in and out all volume automation. At the moment, we're trying to keep this really, really super natural sounding. So everything I'm doing here is just on the console. I'm not doing any additional like EQ or compression yet. I might do inside of the box. We're just going to talk through all of the console stuff. Oh, and by the way, talking of drums, we're giving away 3 things today, as we usually do. And stay around to the last one. The last one, we're giving away a year's membership to the Academy, as well as David Gnozzi, who you'll know from Mixbus TV. He did a drum recording course, which I think is a great companion for those of you that really want to get into drum recording. And so it's out at the moment, and it's a good little course. It's really, really useful. I mean, a lot of people have bought it and love it, and David's a great guy, and he's a really good educator. If you haven't already, check out his YouTube channel, Mixbus TV. He's Italian and really, really cool guy. And also works out a lot, and I get quite jealous. He keeps telling me I have to come down to the gym and work out with him. One day I'll do it, David. Anyway, Rob's laughing back there. Rob's got muscles as well. I think Rob probably works out. Do you work out, Rob?
Trying to get back in.
Trying to get back in, you see. So there you go. All right. So what do I want to know? I suppose I want to know, have any of you recorded live drums? I think we've talked about this once or twice in the past. There's no right or wrong answer. If you have recorded live drums, any information would be great. And if you haven't recorded live drums, but you use drums, what do you use? Do you use Easy Drummer, Slate drums, Addictive drums? You know, have you recorded live drums? A little bit about your experience. Yes, at your house. Yes, in a studio. And if you haven't, you know, what do you use? Do you use Easy Drummer, Addictive drums, Slate drums? Let us know. We'd love to know. Okay, now I'm going to move over. Let's fire up this, and we're going to move over to the toms. And what I'll do is I'll take, let's see if I can just take a little section. It might loop, but it might not. Let's have a listen. See if it loops. See if it loops. Does Eric have something in record? Okie dokie. Hold on 1 second. Loop. Yay! Okay. And my tea arrived, my PG. Okay, so we're over at our Tom channel here. So we'll just solo those for a second. Let's have a look at what we did. So, a couple of things. Boosting a lot of about 100 here. Cutting really dramatically low mids. Boosting some 4K here and then some 6K for some stick attack. But then the secret is like I'm also high passing as well as boosting. So I'm high passing at about 60 as well as boosting a nice big bell curve down here. But you'll see there's an insert on. So what's the insert doing? Well, this is probably a big part of the secret. I am running a pair of transient designers. See here? So I've increased the attack and the sustain pretty dramatically. So that is a big part of the sound. It really is. If I take the insert out, let's have a listen. Take it out. Back in. It's controlling the sustain and allowing the attack. It's just, if you've got a plug-in, we'll move it back over here. If you've got a plug-in version of a transient designer, I highly recommend it. SPL transient designer, really remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Okay, let's throw the whole drum. Oh, and what should be talked about? We talked about this from the Blackbird Academy, was these Josephson mics. And the Josephson mics are not cheap, but remarkably good. We really like them. Really great sounding mics. I think they're a big part of this drum sound. So let's put the whole thing in and see how it sounds. Cool. Like where it's going. So this is a very we're just enhancing the natural drum sound. Didn't go crazy in other areas, but definitely enhancing it. Okay, let's move on. Now, next up would be my rooms. So congratulations, Nate. And says, yes, track to my studio and home. Great. Oh yeah, and Matt Starr is in this course as well. Highly recommend the course. I think it's still on sale through Friday, so James is over there. Hey James, can you put a link to the course for everybody so they can check out the course? So everybody say hello to James. Matt is out interviewing people, so James is there helping out. Thank you, James. All right, so next up is we'll get into some rooms. So we've got room mics. We've got outputting through the console on 7 and 8. So why don't we take all of our rooms, which there is a lot, including the chamber. We have a lot of different room mics. We weren't necessarily using them all. If you remember, the Coles were sort of like, we were indifferent to them. But let's at least output them all and then choose. Okay, so here's the rooms master. I am going to go and listen to them all one by one. So firstly, if you remember the Coles, we liked how there was this Coles idea. Now, James, who's one of our Academy members, wanted to do this. The great thing about doing the masterclass is everybody has, yes, the Blackbird Chamber is here. Everybody has the opportunity to do things that they wanted. We used tons of different mics and miking techniques to experiment, so you could use them in your home studio situation. Thanks, James, for putting that up. So that's the course, by the way, the David Gnozzi and Matt Starr one. Matt, of course, is an amazing drummer, and he has his own course as well. Okay, so the thing about the Coles one is James wanted to try it, and it's essentially 2 Coles microphones pointed at the side of the kit, and we mirrored the technique that's done by, oh, I'm blanking on his name. Oh, terrible that I can't remember his name. Anyway, oh, Steve Albini. It was Steve Albini was talking about it. So this is like a replica of what he does. And we liked it because it definitely makes the cymbals sound super, super wide. However, it does sort of mess with the phase. There's not much you can do about it. You can't really get the snare totally in phase because of the measurements. So what I did is I used time adjuster here to knock this one back so the phase was good on the snare. So the snare sounds pretty centered now. But have a listen to those just on their own. This is those Coles room mics. I mean, I like the snap that the Coles gives on the snare. I don't know if I would favor it so much, but, you know, I like the snap, though. Okay, the next pair of room mics that we have were, with the Gefell on the CV4 on the floor. These were the floor mics. Oh, sorry, no, they're not the floor mics. These are a pair of microphones brought back. And if those of you in the Academy can find the actual video that we did from it. It's pretty remarkable. So I'm going to call these rooms 1, even though they're not the first ones, but you'll see why I want to call them that. And those are very phase coherent. You can hear the snare straight down the middle. They're measured in phase with the snare. I will time adjust the snare top to be in phase with the overheads. I do that all the time. I also time adjust individual elements of the kick to get the low end together. These are all subtle things that you can do that can really help out. So it's pretty tasty room mics. I mean, there's no EQ, no compression on them, but the drummer is very, very balanced. Those are pulled back from the kit pretty evenly and are a good stereo image of the drums. Quite often what I'll do is because that's like not that far off the drum kit, so it's not that big sounding, is it? Have a listen. So what you could do in a situation, if those were your only room mics, remember the 2 things that are making these room mics sound good is a balanced drummer. Number 1, a balanced drummer is why these room mics sound good, because he's playing balanced. It's not all cymbals. He's a very balanced drummer. Don't forget when people are telling you their miking techniques and being very boastful about it, remember, it doesn't matter how amazing your miking techniques are. Is if your drummer is super imbalanced and just bashes the schnizzle out of the cymbals and plays kick and snare like he's apologizing for being there, then you're going to be no good. It's just not going to work. It doesn't matter how well you mic it, you're only going to hear loud cymbals. So remember that. The balanced drummer is the #1 thing that's most important about that. The second thing about this is they are in phase with the drum kit. So the drum kit sounds like it's in the center and you've got a stereo image of it, rather than like snare coming out left and right only because it's out of phase. The polarity is wrong down the middle. This is a really, really important thing. Those are the two things that are more important than anything else. And when people ask me about drum sounds, you always have to come back and go, how was your drummer? Okay, so next up is probably the most fun part of it, is the stereo chamber. So this is a C12, sorry, a C24, so a stereo microphone, a stereo C12. And I'm just going to push up the right-hand side a little bit. Have a listen. So that's now everything together. There's a couple of moments where the transients are flamming a little bit. We can mess around with that. And then there's the floor mics, which are the R84s, the AEAs pointed at the floor. So it's a beautiful floor. The microphones are pointed at the floor. But remember, they're also figure of 8, so they are picking up some ambience behind as well. So it's kind of a bit of everything. And then just for some big guns, we got some M50s. Neumann M50s, which we messed with the balance and the panning to get the kit to feel central. So that's a lot of room mics. You could, for those of you in the Academy that are downloading the multi-tracks, you can blend this any way you want. What I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm just going to create a group of all of the room mics together. So I'm just going to call this all, and I always do capital letters on this so I can quickly see where things are like all drums, all this, or all that. So all rooms. It's easy when I look over to the left-hand side here to see that. And I'm just going to bring them down globally so they're not hitting the bus quite so hard. Okay, let's go and have a look. I'm going to pick up, see what's going on. I'm going to pick up the remote access here. Let's press play. Okay, I'm actually crunching the bass a little bit. I don't really care, I'm not really hearing anything that's bothering me. I do have a little bit of boost at about 60, however I'm also cutting, high passing in a similar area. You're like, what? What does that mean? Well, what I'm doing is I'm sharpening the low end and featuring it. And I'm getting rid of super low rumble at like 60 or below. Then I'm doing some like 9K boost, keeping it flat in the mids, so there's actually no boost there. And then cutting at around about 350. So it's gentle. Let's put in the EQ and have a listen. And then I'm going channel out, so it's EQ into compression. One of the bulbs is blown. Old consoles, that's what happens. You lose lights. So take the EQ off. Little woolly in the low mids. EQ in. So the low mid cut is quite useful there. I love the chamber. We'll go back over here now. I love the chamber. What's so great about the chamber is it might take away the necessity for me to use reverb on the snare. So I can have a very, very natural drum sound. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit more so I'm not quite crunching my room bus. Cool. So now let's throw in everything so we can hear it together. So here's the toms, here's the overheads, here's the snare, here's the kick. Now all of the elements of the drums are now, this is all the drums. So no internal compression EQ, just a hybrid mix using the console and some outboard. Let's have a listen. I like it. I like it. It's very, very natural drum sound. I mean, we've enhanced, you can see the EQ and cuts are there to enhance the drum sound. One thing you'll see that's reoccurring using the console is boosting low end on the kick drum while pulling out low mids pretty much generally in lots of sources like the overheads, like the toms, like the room mics, the low mids, and of course in the kick drum are being pulled out because that gets stodgy and dark and disgusting. And we want super lows, and we want, you know what I mean? We want it to be cracking. So there's a top end on the snare, there's some brightness, there's a little bit of sizzle on the overheads, a little bit of compression on there. But, you know, we've enhanced what is natural about the drummer. Okay, let's do another giveaway before we get on to some bass. We'll do another giveaway. Okay, because we're moving on to bass, I suppose, have you recorded live bass? And if you do record live bass, are you using just a DI and then you're using virtual amps, or are you recording an amp as well as a DI? Are you plugging into the front of your interface and using that as a DI? If you've recorded bass, if you haven't recorded bass, you can enter by saying, no, I've never recorded bass, I'd love to, etc. But if you have recorded bass, how do you record bass? Do you use a DI to go in the front of your interface, or do you use an amp on its own, or maybe a combination of a DI and an amp? How do you record bass? Have you done it? And anybody can win this. It's open to everybody, whether they have or haven't recorded bass. Okay, so what we did the other day is we decided that the Acme Motown DI, which is sitting down there, I want to give it another shout out. Can you grab that? I can see it there. It's a nice green looking military style thing. Definitely worth the shout out. It's going to get passed to me by Rob. Rob is passing it. Okay, a little bit of dust. It went to Sunset Sound the other day. Always worth giving a shout out. No, I am not sponsored by them, but they do rock. And I took it down for John Button to use. He uses the Nobles. So we brought this down. It's been I have a lot of DIs. I have the Rupert Neve one, phenomenal. We love it on guitars. I have the BAE Valgaray one, phenomenal, absolutely love it. Radial make amazing DIs, especially for keyboards and stuff like that. DIs for keyboards. This is my favorite by far on bass guitar. It's a copy, an exact replica of what James Jamerson would have gone through, because James in Motown would have gone through this massive transformer. It weighs a lot because inside there is a reverse engineered, computer analyzed, laser enhanced, I'm just joking. Basically what they did is they found the original DI and they reversed engineered the transformer, and it rounds off the transients just enough and adds a little bit more low and low end, just enough to make your DI almost no necessity to EQ it. So, the DI when you print it, passing it back. Huge shout out. It's not cheap, but I think it's the best DI on the market for bass guitar. Now, there are many other great DIs, and there's ones that I would use for other purposes. But for a bass-only DI, love that thing. And no, I'm not being paid to say that. I'm just here to help. And yes, it's not cheap. Everybody will look up and go, it's expensive. But it's worth every penny. They're handmade in Detroit. How good is that? Motown, made in Detroit. God bless them. Okay, so this was the bass sound that we ended up with. You know, actually, before I go there, here's the bass sound. So this is going through a console. I want to, Sean keeps saying, thank you, Sean. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. And it's really, wonderful because it shows YouTube that we're online and that we're doing something and people actually like it. So hit the like button. 337 people watching. Thank you ever so much. Please, please hit like. That would be amazing. Again, the player was phenomenal. For those of you in the academy who haven't mixed this, remember, this is Victor Krause. This is one of Nashville's top session bass players. Absolutely phenomenal musician. When we do these masterclasses, we bring in the best musicians around. When we did the Sunset Sound one, we had Tony Franklin, obviously from The Firm, playing fretless bass. We had Greg D'Angelo from White Lion playing drums. We always get the best musicians. And here we were blessed to have Victor Krause. It was really, really amazing. Totally flat. That's his amp with the FET 47 on it, and it's his DI, my DI, the Acme Motown DI. Okay, so let's now output it through the bass channel and see what magic we've got going on. So this is now coming out of 9. We'll create a mono master fader. And again, just to explain the reason why we use a master fader, it's the last thing in the chain going into the console. You could do auxiliaries, but you would insert them earlier. The master fader is the end part of it. Okay, so now it's coming out channel 9 on the console. Let's give it a listen. As you can see, there's a great roundness to it. The low is like fantastic. Let's put it back in with the drums and see what we've got. Here's the drum all fader. Yes, he's Alison Krause's brother. He was a session bass player before she became a famous singer. So he's been a, you know, Anita, we all wish we could play like that. It's interesting because I was working with John Button, as you know, is an old friend of mine. We used to be in a band together, and he's currently the Who's bass player. And when I said that we were working with Victor Krause, he's like, he's phenomenal. So I love it when world-class bass players are also impressed with other world-class bass players. All right, let's go and look at the bass channel. There's an occasional red light here. I'm not hearing any distortion, but I am going to bring it down just a shade. It's at -7.2. Let's bring it down. So it went down another half a dB. Still an occasional red light, but I can deal with it. Okay. So what do we got going on? No low end boost there at the moment. Not doing any EQ whatsoever. But what is that? What magic just happened there? I'm running an insert. So, channel EQ, only thing going is an insert. And channel in. So we're keeping it supernatural. So what is the insert? Dun 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 dun. Oh, wrong way. Here it is. Here's a piece of magic. So, trying to get so I can hear it, see it properly. So quite a lot of boost. There's what the sound we had before. Huge amount of 100 Hertz boost on the Pultec. But a little bit of attenuation just to focus it. So what's that doing? It keeps it focused. So it's like taking a narrow amount of 100. So if it's just boosting, the attenuation focuses a little bit more. So it's boosting mainly in the 100 area. And then, what else have I got going on? I've got boost at 3K. So that's for the fingers and the articulation of 3K. So we're boosting 100 Hertz and 3K on a Pultec. What is special about this? Well, first of all, it's Steve Jackson's Pultec. It's absolutely phenomenal. We'll come back over here. So what is phenomenal about that is it's when Pultec were first going, actually near the end, I should say, they were doing everything tube, everything valve. So what happened was they were doing everything valve, and they wanted to move into a different world, and so they actually got a deal with API to use 2520s. The very famous, huge part of API sound, the 2520s. Now, if you're aware, API don't, yes, exactly, solid state. So API don't sell their 2520s. In fact, they're injection like molded, you know, so you can't see inside. And what Gene, who owned Pultec, was able to do was to work out a deal to use the 2520s. API, God bless them, honored that deal with Steve, the new owner of Pultec. So these Pultecs sound phenomenal. Look, Lisa, I'm using it. Woohoo! Look at that. Lisa's going to be happy. Look, I whizzed about. Anyway, see, whiz bang. Was it click bang, what a hang, your daddy just shot poor me. Anybody know what that is? Click bang, what a hang, your daddy just shot poor me. I want to see if anybody knows what I'm doing there. All right, so they honored it. So the new Pultecs, the hardware ones, the small ones, 500 series, all use the API 2520. So hats off for API to doing that. Pretty remarkable. Okay, let's hear the bass and drums back together. Hey, for all the Academy members, I don't remember off the top of my head what the bass was without stopping and looking, but it's inside of the Academy, the recording and everything. You can definitely... Yay! Thanks everybody that got the Hendrix. Click bang, what a hang. Think I better wait till tomorrow. Look at you guys and girls. I love it that you knew what I was doing. Think I better wait till tomorrow. I get a little dismayed at times that some of the younger members... like over there, they never understand any of my references.
We have Google.
They have Google. Yeah, they don't understand any of my reference. I believe it was a P-bass, Victor, yes. But again, it's in the Academy, so you can definitely check it out there. You want to slow it down? I don't know if it will play at half speed. It's the reggae version. Okay, that was if he had a 6-string bass and he was playing the whole thing an octave lower. Okay, for those of you in Pro Tools want to know how to do that, that's Shift Spacebar. Plays everything at half speed. Okie dokie. All right, next up, why don't we go to the piano? I think that's what's going to drive it. Okay, now what we ended up we ended up preferring the Lewitt 640, the one microphone, the Lewitt, because it sees out of both sides of the capsule at the same time and gives us the best ever like stereo separation, and we love this Lewitt. So here it is, just coming out flat. Hank says that will be top 40 in 20 years' time. It might be, Hank. I feel like the 640 is the best utilitarian microphone I've ever used. I mean, the fact that it can do this insane, it can be a vocal mic, and it can also be, you know, it can also be an amazing stereo mic. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, we're going to talk about the piano, and then we're going to do one more giveaway. And the last giveaway we're going to do is also going to be for a year's membership to the Academy. And if you're already a member of the Academy, of course, we'll give you some courses for free. Okie dokie. So it's 2122 on the console. This is where the piano is going to come out. Let's have a listen now to the piano. Down here. All right, listening.
Shit.
Fantastic. Sounds like a digital piano. Wow, you must have amazing digital pianos. Okay, so that is definitely a live piano. A Roland, maybe? You're scaring me, Clint. You're scaring me. Okay, so let's go over and see what we got going on the piano.
Shit.
Oh, I just pulled off a fader by mistake. Okay, so I can go into solo, but we've already soloed it. So what do we have going? I've got to stand up. The chair thingy was a good idea, but... Okay, so let's take out everything that's going on. So this is the flat piano like we first heard. Let's put in the EQ. So a tiny bit of low mid cut at about 300. A little, no boost at 5K, nothing on the top. But a bit of high and low passing. I'm high passing at about 80 to 100 out of the way of the bass guitar. And I'm high passing at about 7K. So, but let's put in the compression, tiny amount of compression, like 3 dB maximum. Here's the secret. The secret is this. What happened? Why did it suddenly sound amazing? So what's the enhancement that I'm doing? Okay, let's... I think the next thing to do is to use my wireless. Okay, so what I've got going on here is 100 boost here at 100, and I've got at 5K I've got some boost here. So I'm actually treating the piano more like an electric guitar in some ways. What do I mean by that? I mean, I'm using it to kind of, I'm not using it in a classical sense and boosting like 10 or 12K and going down super, super low. I'm doing it more for the purpose of providing some mid-range, because this is a, you know, it's a country rock song. It's not a classical song. So piano, once again, I'll recap. No EQ boost here, just a bit of low mid boost, nothing else, just high and low pass filtering. And the main thing that's happening is this Pultec. And the Pultec is boosting at 100 and boosting at 5K. So it's a little bit like guitar EQ. So I'm going to come back over here. And let's get the headphones back. So you can tell that the Pultecs are doing a lot of work. They're doing a lot of work there. They really, really sound phenomenal. My shoes have come untied, of course they have. And this is where I need to move back into the flip-flops, into my rainbows. Okay, so the Pultecs are doing a lot of the work there. They really are. Now you can emulate all of these EQ points, of course, by using, you know, your own EQ inside of and compression inside of the box. But you can just hear what the sort of difference is by using that. So I'm going to now throw everything together. So we've got the drums, the piano, and the bass. Let's see what we have got. I'm blanking on what the piano was. I think it was, I mean, it sounds exactly like a C7, a Yamaha C7. So I believe it was a Yamaha C7. Pudica, if you're an Academy member, you can post mixes inside of the Academy and people will help out. That's what's so wonderful about everybody here. There's a lot of Academy members watching at the moment, is they will help and give you advice on mixes. Everybody helps. So if you're an Academy member, please post your mixes up there. See, Nate Wycroft says that. It's pretty fantastic. We have an amazing, amazing community. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the acoustic. And again, very, very straightforward kind of work there. I'm really just using the console barely, but I'm also using like nice toys, which you can emulate easily. I would definitely pick, if you don't have a Pultec that, you know, that's built with those massive transformers on it that can soak up the kind of level that you have to use hybrid, I would stick to using plugins, and you can emulate this with plugins. Look at Andrew Sheps. I mean, the Omni channel for itself can do a lot of these tricks that we're doing here. So don't forget that. I think it's really, really important to remember that some of the cheaper, you know, things that look like other pieces of gear aren't clones internally, they're just clones externally. And one of the difficulties with the cheaper Pultecs is they don't have the headroom. So what's happening is, like, if I'm running super hot signals, like analog level signals, And these Pultecs soak it up. The real things soak it up. But when you insert one that looks like a Pultec but isn't actually, you know, doesn't have the same high quality components, they don't have the headroom. I mean, you can read online the headroom. So what tends to happen is they distort really easily. So just be careful. You're probably better off, if you can't afford a really expensive one, to just buy the plugins. They're so cheap. As somebody was pointing out, the Waves deal is so cheap. Can you, James, can you put up a deal to all of the Waves plugins at the moment? It's insane. You know, it's really, really super inexpensive. Okay, just going to name this bass, and we're going to go to acoustic guitars. So let's listen to these acoustics where we left them off. And we did Nashville tuning, which is the high strung. We did regular, and we did, it's quite a lot of beautiful acoustics that were all done together. And we used the Slate VMS, actually one on the high strung. Pretty amazing, and there's a wash of beautiful acoustics. So we'll have a listen to that. Before we do that, we'll do our last giveaway. Our last giveaway is this. Have you ever recorded a live piano? Or have you, like Clint, used a Roland, which sounds exactly like a mic'd C7 apparently? I'm just teasing you, Clint. Okay, the...
and it is a Yamaha C7.
It is a Yamaha C7. It sounds just like a Yamaha C7. We have a Yamaha C7 down at Harmony, so I know it really, really well. So anyway, the... so Yamaha C7, and have you ever recorded a live piano? If you haven't recorded a live piano, totally understand. And what is your preferred piano? Do you use a Roland digital piano like Clint, or do you use, do you use a virtual instrument? And which one do you use? Do you use the Arturio? We love that. Which ones do you use? Let us know. That would be absolutely fantastic. So here are all the acoustics together. Let's have a listen. Jake, I love cheap uprights. We have a cheap Trasy upright in there. There you go. All of the, any Waves plugin is $29 today and tomorrow. James just posted it there. Please feel free to check that out. Okay, so I have a separate acoustic channel, which can be quite aggressive in compression and EQ. So let's see what it's set to at the moment. Remember, this is not only, please enter, please hit that like button as well while you're about it, if you can hit the like button. This is not only to win a free course, the free David course, it is also, the drum mixing course, it is also for a 1-year membership to the Academy. And if you're already an Academy member, we'll give you another course for free. Okay. I know there's a lot of Academy members here, which is wonderful. All right, 11 and 12 on the console. I'm going to bring the output down and then raise it up so it hits the console beautifully. Cool. Now, before I show you that, I'm just going to get the blend right. So let's put in the bass with the acoustic. Marvellous. Firewire drive, crapped out. All right, let's go and listen to the piano. So I'm going to pick up my little handy device here. Hello, everybody. And we are ready to go. Okay. Acoustics, solo. Stand up. So what have I got going on? Nothing on the low end as far as boost. Nothing on the mid-range, low mids as far as boost. But top boost at 7K and again about 9 or 10. But I'm low passing at about 8K, so even though I'm doing all this high boost, I'm not getting it like on the super high end where the cymbals are and the top end of the vocal, the air on the vocal. And then I'm high passing at about 100. So if I take it out, in, obviously, out. So you can definitely hear the sort of low, middly kind of low end of it. So drop it all in together. It's moving back over. I'm going to go to the screen. Fantastic. Congratulations, David Jackson. Great. I want to listen again for a little bit from the top before we wrap up. So no vocals, no electric guitars yet. We'll do that again. We'll probably do that on Thursday, I think. And then to wrap up. So here we go.
Gonna take a long way home before it's over.
Wow, the low end on that floor tom is insane. Insane. All right, thank you everybody for watching. Please hit that like button. I see there's 298, 300 people left watching. Please hit the like button on your way out. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you. It's 11:59. We're about to sign off. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Come back and join us on Thursday. We will repeat this, but we'll add in electric guitars and vocals and Hammond and have all kinds of fun. Thank you ever so much. It's been really, truly marvelous. And yes, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Thank you ever so much. And this will post eventually to YouTube, using about 10 or 20 minutes. And then, of course, you can leave some comments and questions below. And I will do my darndest to come back and answer them as soon as I can. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Oh, and congratulations to all the winners.